with the first pick in the NFL draft.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Draft Show. We are back with our top 10 draft prospects. We are covering the quarterbacks today. Adam, we've already done a mock draft that is out. You can go and have a look at who we've got your team picking. But today we're here to talk about the quarterbacks in the upcoming 2026 draft. Time of year that we love going through all the draft prospects. Don't think you're overly excited about doing the quarterbacks, though.
Well, it's not really a spoiler because the mock draft has already come out, but not many of them got in the first round. Let's put it that way. So,
not something you were saying last year when you were like, "Oh, wait till next year's draft." Well, we're at next year's draft.
Well, I think there was hope, wasn't there?
Yes,
there was hope.
There is three or four names on this list we're about to go through that were pegged to be first rounders, and then some have returned.
Yeah, it was genuine hope that there was going to be some decent quarterbacks this year, and hasn't really materialized, unfortunately. We will say exactly the same as what we said last year. Hope for next year. There is hope that there will be some decent quarterbacks coming out in 2027. But for this year's class, it's not. There's not many that you can sort of pigeonhole as definite starters.
No, I think bar one, I think that might be the case. But we'll take a look and see who we've got on our list, and we'll jump straight in at number 10. Number 10, I have Tylen Green from Arkansas Razorbacks. Started his career at Boise State, did 3 years there, redshirted his first year, moved to Arkansas in 2024, where he was the full-time starter, was the Liberty Bowl MVP in 2024 as well. And then last year didn't go as smoothly as what expected. Arkansas did not have the season that they thought they were going to have. They knew he would be declaring for the draft, and they tried to see what they had in another guy. But this guy, 23 years old, 6'6", 229 pounds. He threw for 2,714 yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 60.7% completion rate. He also rushed 777 yards and 8 touchdowns. He is a true dual threat guy. He's a big guy, tall, big frame, can pass and run. Adam, I can see NFL teams liking the traits with this guy. What's your thoughts on Tylen Green?
Yeah, so the first thing to say about Green is that he is clearly a very athletic quarterback who is a genuine dual threat quarterback. And he should test incredibly well at the combine. I think you're going to find a lot of people will kind of like his testing ability. He's got some really nice deep ball throws. I think we've seen that during his time at college, especially on vertical routes. I think he's really good for that. Nice arm strength and touch when it comes to the deep ball throw. He does that really well. Brilliant in the RPO plays. I think that's something that he's very good at. And actually, the one thing I would say about him is he does have that kind of clutch gene about him. It's like some of the highlights that I saw and some of the tape that I've watched of him was against Tennessee, when he did very well against them, going up against a stronger team, and then again in the bowl game against Texas Tech. I think when it really mattered, he came to the fore and looked very good. So I think he's got some good attributes about him. Unfortunately, he also has some pretty bad ones as well, and that's why he's ranked where he is on our board. So yeah, he has some good things that I think NFL teams will like the look of. It's just going to be a matter of whether they feel they can iron out the bad bits. Yeah,
I think there is talk about this guy as well, potentially being drafted onto an NFL roster. to play multiple positions. There's sort that he could, with the fact that he's got a track and field background, with the fact that he wants a ball in his hands, he's a monster. There's a talk that he can play tight end with his height and weight and have success there as well. So there is the possibility of someone liking him, bringing him in as a quarterback prospect, but also having that upside that he could be a tight end for you for the future as well. So he's not just sort of, oh, let's see what we've got in quarterback. Oh, no, it's not there. Oh, wow, that's a wasted pick if he's picked. So there is that with him. The problem I have with him in terms of ability is he relies on that velocity that he throws the ball at and tends to overthrow people, which is dangerous. Those overthrown passes are what lead to interceptions. So he does need someone to come in and polish him. We'll talk about this a lot with the younger guys. Doesn't really get through his reads as well. But the tools and attributes, someone's going to like him, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think them attributes, there's a lot there that they'll like. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, progressions was a big problem for him. From what I could see, he needs to develop that and just hasn't done much. Really, he's sort of like, he's better at the big, longer throws than he is at sort of like the short timing sort of throws. He that's something that he seems to struggle with, and he's not as good with. Look, been saying this for a couple of years now. These quarterbacks in college, they got to learn how to slide. It's ridiculous. He takes so many unnecessary hits. It's stupid. And overall, he's just a bit inconsistent. It's like you will get a play where he great, and then the next play he just completely falls apart. Whether that be just because the pressure is on him too quickly, or he just sort of like struggles to read what's going on. I think that's his biggest issue. I haven't given a comp for every one of these guys, but the comp that I've got for this guy is Jalen Milroe. That's what kind of he reminds me of. He's kind of got that sort of like dual threat ability, but I would. He might, like you say, maybe him moving position might be the way forward for him in order to get into the NFL, because I'm not sure if he's going to make it as a quarterback, to be honest.
Yeah. Next up, we have got Jalen Daniels from the Kansas Jayhawks. He's 23, 6 foot, 220 pounds. Last year had 2,531 yards, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 62.1%. And he rushed for 404 and 4 touchdowns. I have been a big fan of this guy. Spent his whole time at Kansas. I've been a big fan of him every single year. He's really exciting to watch, but every single year I'm high on him and think, yes, they're going to be good. They're going to contest this year. He gets injured a lot. And I don't know whether that's due to the style he plays or whether it's a bit of a concern. But when he was fit and when he was playing, they were always a team to watch and a team to sort of keep an eye on. Again, another guy that has the dual threat ability as well, and the athleticism and the speed is going to be there. I expect him to run quite a fast 40 at the combine as well. For me, I think obviously there's some polishing. He's at 9 on this list, so obviously there's some issues there. But when he played and when I saw him, I was excited to watch him play. So I've got a space for him on this board. I know there's lots of people haven't got him in their top 10, but he made the difference on that team, and he made them viable as a team that could go far in their conference. So Adam, what's your take on him?
I think he's got a lot of good things going for him. I think, as you say, he's another dual threat quarterback who has the speed and the ability to use his legs when he really needs to. I think he has the ability to. One thing that I did really like about him is just the fact that he seems to be able to pass the ball from all angles. He really does seem to be able to do that, and he has the accuracy. He has the velocity in his arm in order to be able to make that quick throw or that deep throw. Some of them, like, they come out like absolute bullets. They really do. And he's got that about him where he can do that. One really nice thing, which you don't necessarily see with all college quarterbacks, I think he navigates the pocket really, really well. Like, he can deal with that. He makes decent decisions. He has good ball placement. So he kind of has things going for him where you sort of think there's a lot of sort of fundamentals that are solid here and are decent. I think, as you said, the biggest issue with Daniels is the injury history. You know, he's had shoulder problems, he's had back problems, he's had knee problems. He's only had 36 starts during his college career. It is a concern because it is just a thing of, although it's not the same injury, it's like, is this guy just an injury prone player? And is that going to be the problem with him? I think his processing and his progressions, it just needs to speed up a little bit. He is a little bit slow when it comes to that. And the deep ball is a bit inconsistent. Sometimes he can hit it perfect. Sometimes he can be miles off. So I think that there are a lot of solid fundamentals that are okay here. And he could potentially be able to do anything. I think we're probably looking at a back a day 3 if he gets drafted at all kind of guy. But yeah, I felt like I saw a little bit of Jordan Travis in him before the injuries, basically. And I think that he has that kind of dual threat thing about him. He looks all right. I don't know if anyone's going to draft him though.
Yeah, I think he's at his height and his injuries. Although he's quite a thick guy, I think that might put people off wanting to draft him. But I think he got a bit picked up by someone, and we'll get to see him in preseason and see what he can do. Hopefully, he stays healthy. We move on to our next one, Adam, which is Diego Pavia. Was in the Heisman bout from Vanderbilt Commodores, 23 years old, 5'9", 198 pounds. Threw for 3,539 yards, 29 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 70.6% completion percentage. Also rushed for 862 yards and 10 further touchdowns. He actually made Vanderbilt viable for a year. They've been the laughing stock of the SEC for many a year, and this year they turned up. They beat some people. They were good. There was a big vibe about them. He's a big personality, and you'll see him in the media an awful lot. I will come to some of my points with him, but I'll let you take it away first with Diego Pavia.
So I think he has quite a few positives going for him, in fairness. I think his pocket awareness is really, really good. He navigates traffic incredibly well. He is, again, another dual threat quarterback who has that ability to use his legs to accelerate away from the defender. And I actually think he's got some pretty decent contact balance as well. It's probably because he's a little bit because he's a bit smaller, he kind of has that ability to sort of like have good balance and not fall over so quickly. His deep ball accuracy is a real strength of his. I think that's something that he does very well. And he's clearly a very sort of tough guy in the red zone, willing to put his body on the line and sort of get the job done kind of thing. So they're kind of like the positives and the reasons as to why he may potentially be drafted in this draft. There are some sort of big concerns though with Pavia, and firstly, obviously, like you said, there is the sort of the character concerns where it kind of is a little bit like he does like to give out his opinion, and I think that there are teams out there that will not be happy with that and will not want to know just from straight away before you even look at the tape because of that. And then the other massive problem, ironically massive, is that he is quite small, and at 5'9", we're kind of talking Kyler Murray sort of height levels here, where it becomes a problem where there is a general sort of, can he actually see over the O-line sort of issues. We
had Bryce Young come out and say prior to this season that he's 6 foot, isn't he? Bryce Young just under 6 foot. Is he 5'11"?
I think he's 5'11" or 6 foot. Yeah.
He was hoping to come in at 6 foot at the combine and just missed out. And even he's saying, yes, I have trouble throwing over the middle because I can't see the players behind the receivers because of having to look over the O-line. So he's had to adapt his gameplay to throwing to wide receivers that he can see and throwing to them rather than throwing to the space that the wide receiver is going to run into, which is what the taller guys that can see over and know where the play is developing. This guy's 5'9". We mentioned him at the Senior Bowl because he's been telling people he's 6 foot. He was hoping, I think people were hoping he'd come in at 5'10", which was listed. He came in at 5'9" and some little bits, which is smaller than me. And I'm mocked for how tall I am, and I don't play American football. So I think it's also 198 as well. That no way does this work in the NFL. It works at college when you haven't got some of the level of defenders flying at you, and you can be this like cocky dual threat guy and use your legs. But I don't think it works in the NFL.
Yeah, so after I had can't see over the O-line, the next thing I had was durability ? And I think it is going to be a problem because obviously, like you say, he is a small guy. So that is an issue. He does have some other ones. His progressions are still pretty slow compared to some of the other people. I'm not overly keen on his arm strength when it comes to sort of like the shorter throws. It feels like he doesn't zip them in enough when he could do that. And obviously, because of his build, he's not going to be a pure pocket passer. He can't be that. So, the defenses that are going to go up against him will know that. And so it kind of almost becomes like there's only really one thing he can do, which is rush. And it takes away a big chunk of it. I think in order for it to work, I think you would have to kind of have big wide receivers on the outside and just throw the ball up as much as possible. And that doesn't normally work in the NFL. So I kind of agree. I think it's going to be very difficult for it to work. I think there'll be some people who will love him. There'll be certain teams that will love him.
There is people that love him and big him up and talk and say that he was disrespected for not, being the Heisman and things like that. So
I think he will be drafted. I don't know how it's going to pan out, but I'm here to watch it.
I really worry that his off-field red flags are going to be a major concern when you're the height and weight that he is, and that's already a concern. You want someone in the building that apparently, like, he's been caught out drinking when he's not supposed to have been. He's been put stuff on his social media about other players and teams that are very disrespectful and not done as a joke. He's calling people out. There's a lot of red flags, as well as his measurables. So I can see him go. If we saw Shedeur drop dramatically based on apparently interviewing process and attitude. So if this guy's not as highly touted going into it as him, I can see him going undrafted. If he doesn't interview well, if he doesn't, because he didn't perform overly well at the Senior Bowl, the Combine. I think there's going to be areas where he's with the other guys, he might get shown up again. So I can see him being on a downward trajectory from a good year that he's had with Vanderbilt, which showcased him and got him into the spotlight. I think that is going to be pushed to the back, and only new stuff is going to come forward for him. So, which I think is not going to showcase him in the best light. So, I do worry for this guy.
Yeah, I think everything you've said is a fair point, and I think you're probably right. I just think that there'll be some teams that will think they can do something with him, and it'll just be different, and they'll go for it, and they'll love his attitude. And I don't think I'm talking like Saturday night 7th round type pick, and just throw a 7th rounder on him, and let's just see what can happen.
Have you got a comp for him, or there is no comp for him?
No, I didn't really come up with anything, because I just
there isn't
not a quarterback, because there just isn't really anyone who plays. I mean, his height, I will say Kyler Murray,
He's nowhere near as talented.
But he just and also the other thing is not only is he nowhere near as talented as Kyler Murray when it comes to throwing, he hasn't got the speed of Kyler Murray either. So you're miles off from that. And yeah, it's I don't know. There is no comp for him. He's definitely going to be he's one of a kind.
Yeah. Next up, we have Carson Beck. I've not been a huge fan of Carson Beck his whole time in college football. At the Miami Hurricanes now, formerly of Georgia, 23 years old, 6'4", 220 pounds, 3,813 yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 72.4% completion rate, and he rushed for 43 yards and 2 extra touchdowns. 2024 was supposed to be his breakout year, his big year to, he was a backup at Georgia behind Stetson Bennett. He got his chance. He looked okay at the back of the year. 2024 was just, littered with disappointment for him at Georgia and inconsistency for that year. So he chose to come back, get a load of NIL money, and do his year with the Hurricanes. It has been a better year with the Hurricanes. I'll let you have your say on him first before I come in with some other stuff. But I think consensus-wise, I think I've got him lower than the majority of people out there currently. What's your thoughts on Carson Beck?
Yeah, it's weird that does seem to have sort of risen up boards a little bit. I'm not a massive fan, I have to say. I think that he has the build to be an NFL quarterback. At 6'4", 220, I think he has that ability to play the position. I think he goes through his progressions well. He does that well, and he's pretty solid in the pocket. The throws that he makes, I think he does have quite nice ball placement. So they're kind of the positives with him. I don't really feel like there's much else when it comes to great things. He's not a quarterback that's going to use his legs too much. I feel like he had surgery. He had UCL surgery on his elbow, I think it was.
Yeah. And it's the elbow injury that put him out at Georgia.
Yeah, and ever since he's had that, it just feels like the arm just doesn't have the strength in it that it had before, and it's just not as good. I think he struggles under pressure quite a lot. I think if you can get through, then that's an issue. The turnover-worthy plays that he had, just way too many, way too high. Needs to sort that out. And his deep ball, I just didn't think was particularly fantastic. I think he's probably, for me, he's definitely a day 3 guy. I don't have him going any earlier than that. He kind of reminds me of Aiden O'Connell a little bit. You remember the Raiders quarterback? But he just, I think if you want a pocket passer who is going to sort of systematically do a lot of 10-yard passes all the way down the field, then I think he might work for you. But that's all. I think that's all it is. I don't think there's much else to him, and I think that's where the problem comes in. So it's like I don't think you can win like that in the NFL anymore.
No, I find that it's an average arm. His footwork's not great, and his decision making is questionable. I think those 3 things put together put people off. When we were talking about Tylen Green, and we were saying, throws an absolute dart. Got these really nice traits and sort of tools that he can use. Carson Beck hasn't got that. He's not got that in his locker as well. I think he will make it in the NFL as a backup, and I think that's probably his level. I don't think he'll ever be a full-time starter. I think there is a position for him in the NFL as a backup, but he is also another guy for me that has a couple of red flags, like with attitude things. He's a guy that has struggled to get the locker room. And has had issues at Miami as well, with in press conferences and things, calling out his wide receivers and things like that. And I think when you're supposed to be the leader and you've got locker room issues, and he had the whole issue with his girlfriend. I don't know if you about this moved to college to be with her and cheated on her and all of that. And I just feel like he's got a lot of growing up to do, and he's very average. So I just struggle to see someone getting on board with him being a full-time starter. But I do think there is potential for him to go into the NFL as a backup.
Yeah, I think the other problem is that if you're coming at it and you do bring them issues as well, you're not going to last very long as a backup. Like, because the backup quarterback, you just need to say nothing. If you start trying to come out with things and you're in that, they don't want to know. It's almost like they don't want to hear you. You're just a backup sort of thing. So it's like if you start doing that, you're not going to last very long in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. I think you need like really hard-working, high IQ guys for backups. I think they work really well.
Yeah.
The guys that watch the tape, help on the sideline, got the boards and the iPads and things. I think they work really, really well for you. On to the next one, Adam. We have got Cade Klubnik, someone who I have been very high on, a former 5-star recruit back in 2022. He's 22 years old, so still very young. Clemson Tigers, 6'2", 210, 2,943 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 65.6% completion percentage, and rushed for 94 yards and 4 further touchdowns. He is one of the few guys that has managed to get MVP twice in the ACC championship game. Clemson had a down year this year. I think the 2024 season, when they qualified for the playoffs, I think that's the tape to watch on him, because I think 2025, he played through the whole season with an ankle injury and a thumb injury. It didn't really sideline him too much. He just played through it. I think there's a lot to like about him. I think he has a good arm. I think he is very... I've got another point to make about him in terms of his accuracy as well. But I'll let you talk about him first, Adam, and give me your thoughts before I add to a guy that I do really like.
So I think when you say a good arm, I think he has good strength in the arm. I'm not overly keen on his technique. I think that could really improve. What I noticed through looking at the tape, and this was from 24 and 25, I think that he kind of doesn't follow through as well as what he should do, and he kind of, the ball tends to sail a little bit and it goes over the target because of it. So that's a bit of a concern. I also think that his technique when it comes to throwing on the run is not particularly great either. I think he struggles a bit there. I do think he has some really good attributes about him. I think his ball security is great. He's very good with that. Really nice middle sort of throws, 10, 20-yard throws. I think he does that really nicely. He's got really good touch about him, so he can do that. And when the pocket is clean, he has some really, really good mechanics and progressions. He does that very, very well. I think his first read is good. Sometimes when he doesn't get his first read, the mechanics can go a little bit off. I mean, like I say, that it's not bad. The progressions are all right, but it's predominantly on that first read. He does get hit a bit. He doesn't really have much feel in the pocket. That's the concern with him a little bit. And he's only 205 pounds, so he's not like a massive guy. So the frame is a little bit small because of that. I think he's 6'2", which is fine, but he's just 205. Yeah, I thought he was all right. I didn't think he was anything special. I feel he's a backup. I feel he's a day 3. And he kind of reminded me of Quinn Ewers a little bit, which I wasn't particularly keen on.
I think that's harsh.
Yeah, well, I wasn't overly fussed with him. I feel he's a day 3 guy, and just... Can I
ask? Did you only watch 2025 tape? Did you watch any of the 2024 tape?
I saw a little bit of 24 tape, which was, I will say, was much better than 25 tape. I didn't think the 25 tape was very good at all.
Because based off of his 24 tape,
I didn't see much.
Everyone had a first round grade on him. After that,
I can understand that, and I can see where I think first round might be a little bit higher even on that tape.
Well, they were looking for a better 20. If the 2024 tape, this guy has the potential to be first round. 2025 just needed to kick on, didn't it? And maybe it would have been the conversation, and it didn't.
Yeah.
But everyone at Clemson had a poor year, and like I said, he played through 2 injuries throughout the season, so he was beat up for a lot of the year.
Yeah, and the thumb injury might be the reason why I've seen a lot of balls sail over. That's entirely possible why that could be the case. I didn't think he was that good. I'm not having a go at him. I'm having a go at all of them. I don't think any of them are brilliant, but like I feel like he's got backup written all over him.
Yeah, I think most of these have got backup written all over them. I don't think he'll go into the NFL drafted as a starter. I think he has the potential to be a backup, work with someone, offensive mind or a good quarterback coach. And then when he comes in, I think he has the ability to be one of those competent backups that can help you, something that Cincinnati were looking for when Burrow's out, someone who can take the helm like you had with Malik Willis, that you don't lose games when you bring your backup in. And I think he has the ability with his skill set and his tape, if they can unlock him and unlock the 2024 tape, because he's still young at 22 years old, he has the ability to be a high-end backup that can start games in the NFL. And I think that's what I like about him, that I think he can start. He's good enough to start games, but not be a starter.
Yeah. I think he could, if he gets the right coaching, I think he could. He's got some really good attributes about him, which I think if he's coached up properly, then he can get somewhere. But he's not. He's not
ready.
No, not.
Next up at number 6, says number 5. Number 6. Are we at number 6?
No, we've just done number 6.
Good. Yeah, I had 7. I've got 2 7s. There we go. So in number 5 is Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss Rebels. He's 23 years old, 6'1", 200 pounds. Threw for 3,937 yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 66% completion percentage, 527 rushing yards, and 8 further touchdowns. I feel like the story of Trinidad Chambliss is great. He's a 0-star recruit back in 2022. He was actually a basketball player. He didn't really get his chance properly till he decided to back himself and go to Ole Miss in 2024. And then got the chance when Austin Simmons got injured to come in and play for the Ole Miss Rebels, and had an absolutely fantastic year and led them to the playoffs and had some success in the playoffs as well. I really struggled to properly analyze and get into this guy of whether he was really, really good or whether he was a backup or where he fits and where he fit on my top 10. And I asked you to go away and really look into the tape of him and get into it. So, Adam, what did you find when you were watching him?
Yeah, I quite liked him. I think he's got something about him where I think that he could make it. He has that potential. The problem is that obviously it is a limited sample size. He hasn't played that much, especially against really like elite competition. He's got quite a small frame. I know he's 6 foot, and obviously we were talking about Pavia and how small he is, but it's like he's only 6 foot. He's 200 pounds. He had 16 batted passes in 2025, so this is the concern with him. I think he's going to be another one where he's going to need big wide receivers on the outside in order to make anything from this, because otherwise I think it's just going to be difficult. But I think if in the right situation, he has the potential to be able to do something. I don't necessarily think he's a definite starter, but I think he I think he has the potential to be able to become something like a Malik Willis. I think that's kind of like that dual threat quarterback, and he's the best dual threat quarterback in this class by quite a way, I would say. He's definitely a very mobile runner. You're probably looking at a 4.4 sort of 40 time. I think his arm is decent. He can attack downfield. He's good on the run. He's good at throwing on the run. He's got great accuracy, escapes the pocket really well, and also has really good ball security when he's running as well. You know, his footwork is brilliant because of his ability to maneuver so quickly. He's got a lot of things going for him, and I think he'll definitely get a shot at being able to do something. I think his arm strength is good. I think he kind of almost has Kyler Murray's arm strength. So that kind of came across from what I saw. But I don't think you're looking at a first round pick here. I think again, someone might take a punt at the very, very. I would have him higher than 5th. I would say not much higher, but only a little bit higher. But yeah, I think he's got a good chance of being able to do something here, and we'll have to, we'll see what happens. But I think he definitely deserves a shot.
Yeah, I think he deserves a shot. I wish the NCAA had granted him his waiver to go back for another year. Obviously, he wanted to go back to Ole Miss for another year, and they declined it. He is still fighting it, I believe, with lawyers to try and get it, because he redshirted his first year, and then his second year he missed with medical issues, respiratory medical issues. So he missed the whole year. So he's saying that I didn't get that year as well, so I deserve another year of eligibility. And I'd like to see him have another year of eligibility, because I'd like to see a more, like you say, the sample size is very small. I do worry.
This is the problem.
Yeah, his release is good. His throw motion is good. He gets through the reads. His touch is nice. I feel like he dealt with pressure quite well. But the size is a concern for me with him. And his placement with his passes is sometimes, I think he just throws it into an area rather than which I think could be an issue in the NFL. But again, when you've played that such a small sample size, all these things can be polished. So I think there's ability for him to be good, but the ability to be very good. I just don't know what it is yet. And I can't really put a stamp on it yet of say, I definitely think this guy can make it in the NFL, because I just haven't seen enough of him despite his fantastic year that he's had and the story behind him. So that's why he's at where he's at. Yeah,
I think Malik Willis is probably the top of what he will probably be able to get to. I think that kind of makes sense, and him being able to be that.
Well, Malik Willis is bigger than him, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I know that the sort of like the fear, we all believe that Malik Willis is going to get a starting job, but it's like he did struggle when he first came into the NFL, and it's only because
he's a former first round pick, and in his class, people thought he might be the best of his class, and I feel like he just had a bad hand with where he was drafted. Yeah. So I think that it's hard to put them on the same scale, but then again, is it hard to put them on the same scale? Because, like I said, we haven't seen enough of Chambliss. We might be saying he is the same, but I don't know.
I think if this guy can get some decent coaching at a good organisation as a backup, I think he's got a chance of being able to do what Malik Willis has done. I think he could be that guy who could be like the backup at a good organisation and come in and win a couple of games for you. I think he has that potential about him.
He's obviously very coachable, because Lane Kiffin really liked him, and Lane Kiffin's a great offensive mind, and look what he got out of him. So I think there's definitely the ability to coach him there. We move on to our next guy, a guy that I'm massive on. I really, really like him, and that is Drew Aller. I've probably gotten the highest on any list you'll see in the top 10s of quarterbacks. Penn State, Nittany Lions, so there's no bias there because I'm an Ohio State fan. He's 21 years old, so the youngest of these guys, 6'5", 235 pounds. His season was ended short due to injury last year, so he only threw for 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 74.8% completion percentage, 172 yards and another touchdown. He's had 4 years at Penn State, and he has progressed. His completion percentages got better every single year, but he's never really, hit that height of going, he's going to progress this year. He's going to progress this year. He's a former 5-star recruit back in 2022. He used to play basketball. He used to play baseball. He was really good in the 2024 Big Ten Championship. And as I said, he only played 6 games last year due to an ankle injury. I've been waiting for him to make the leap every single year, and it just hasn't come. Is it because he was at Penn State and they're very defensive minded and very run the ball and had no wide receivers? Or is he just plateaued and that's what he is? 21 years old. He could potentially be a Josh Allen going into the NFL with his prototypical size and traits and arm and everything. Adam, what's your take on him? Is it there or isn't it?
No. Look, I think all the things that you've just said, he does have literally every trait that you could want at quarterback. He does have great size and build. I think his arm is actually pretty close to being like elite. It really is. He's got great velocity on his throws. Good ball security. I think he does that really well. And his decision making is decent. I think he does make some good stuff. He can extend plays well. He does come across a bit Josh Allen-esque. He has that about him. And I feel like he is a competitive guy, and he will put his body on the line, and he wants to win, and he does have all of that about him. That's great, that he has all of that, and I think that will mean that he will get a job in the NFL and he will be drafted, and he will be I think he'll be a backup, and if he gets coached by the right people, I think he could potentially do something. However, he does have some really, really big issues. And this is where the problem is. His footwork is everywhere. It is all over the place. His stance is miles too wide, and his mechanics are just generally not good. He doesn't look comfortable when he throws the ball. It's really strange. And the timings of his throws can be inconsistent. He's very set on his first read, and that's a problem. It's almost like it's predetermined, so that's a big concern. And when you actually look at what he's done, whenever he's played the best opponents he's gone up against, it's been pretty poor. And that's kind of a bit of a concern, because compared to some other quarterbacks, even some other quarterbacks that we've spoken about in this class, it kind of feels like that clutch gene isn't there. And that's a bit of a concern with him. I know you said that statistically he's progressed. Watching him and watching some of his 24 tape, and so obviously he didn't play much in 25, but when you actually watch him, it kind of felt like he regressed a little bit in respect of just things like the mechanics and the footwork, and it just kind of felt like it was just generally everything was a bit all over the place. I would have him as number 5. I would have Chambliss ahead of him, so I wouldn't have him much further down. I think he's better than the other guys that we've spoken about, and I think that, like I say, if he can get some coaching where they focus specifically on his mechanics and his footwork, I think you could genuinely have a really good quarterback on your hands here. But from what we're seeing at the moment, it doesn't look like it. And don't take this the wrong way, but he's got a bit of Will Levis about him.
Oh, no, I don't think he's got Will Levis about him.
He does at the moment. If he sorts his footwork and mechanics and gets coached up, I think he can be much better than that. But Will at the Levis moment,
all arm. And
that's kind of how this guy feels at the moment.
I don't know. I think I think he's better than that. I think you're not giving him enough credit for that. I think you've got to take
I
into
think
account.
I think he can be.
I think you've got to take into account the school that he's at and what that school focuses on. That school has been very defense heavy.
But
They've never had good wide receivers. They have always ran the ball. I think when you're talking about a guy that's got NFL size, arm, tools, traits, all of that, and I think they're things you can't teach, and he's got them. And then
absolutely.
But he's not good at his footwork and his mechanics. They can be taught.
Yeah.
So I think if you Shambliss, as good
But
as he is,
I can't see that in the tape, can I?
Yeah, but the Shambliss, you can't teach him to be bigger and.
No, I agree, and
So
I think you're right. I think you're right. I just, based on what you see from what he's done so far, that is kind of what you're dealing with. It does feel like he is just a bit of a strong arm. But like I say, the caveat on all of this is that if you can get him at a good organization as a backup, get him at the Rams. Please get him at the Rams.
If he goes to the Rams,
that would be ideal.
You could unlock the next Josh Allen. I think Sean McVay is the perfect person to unlock the issues that he's having of making the next leap. I think once he does, you've got an NFL starter on your hands. You've got a franchise quarterback. If you can unlock those things, he's a franchise quarterback. And I think that we've not said that about any of the others so far.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that, because he does have everything that you need. It is literally just a case of what you are seeing at the moment. Mm-hmm. It's not there. And there's a lot that needs sorting out. But get the right guy sorting him out. I think he's got a good chance of being something special.
I think the Rams have the opportunity, because I don't think this guy's going to... I think he'll get some hype closer to the draft based on his tools and his attributes. But I mean,
when we thought he was going to come out in the draft last year, he was a second rounder, wasn't he? We were looking at.
Yeah. So, it was the second round we were looking at.
And it feels like it's not got better.
I know. I feel like it's probably dropped a bit because he didn't make the leap. I know he was injured, but he didn't make the leap. But I do feel like the Rams are going to be able to get him without wasting one of those first two picks that they've got in the first round. And they could get this guy maybe late second, early third, and have a guy to develop there. So I think the Rams is the perfect place for him. I think that would be a fantastic home for him to go to.
Yeah.
Next up on this list, we have Ty Simpson. Yes, I have Ty Simpson at number 3. Maybe the only person who has him as the number 3 on their list, because he seems to be the second on everyone's list and a first round grade on him by most people. I haven't got a first. The only reason I'd have a first round grade on him is to get the 5th year on him. And that would be the only reason, because I don't feel like, the traits are there for me. So Ty Simpson, Alabama Crimson Tide, spent his whole time there. He's waited very patiently to get his start. 23 years old, 6'2", 208 pounds, 3,567 yards, 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 64.5% completion percentage, 93 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Adam, former 5-star recruit, back up to Jalen Milroe, got his chance. He's only had 15 starts. He was offered a lot of NIL money to return, but chose to turn it down because he said legacy was a big thing for him and he wanted his legacy to be Alabama. He's only had 15 starts for Alabama. I'm not sure what the legacy is. What's your thoughts on Ty Simpson? You were very high on him throughout the year, through the starts of the season, and you would text me about him saying, this is the guy I like. Are you still on board with him? Because he had a very rocky end to this season.
He did. I think he's got a lot of good things going for him, and I think that because of that, there's a strong chance that you've got yourself a quarterback here who could potentially start in the draft, start in the league. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and the thing is, because he has only played so many games and there is a limited sample size, it does feel like he's going to need some time to sort of sit, and that will probably help him to get better as well. I think he's the best middle of the field thrower in the class. I think he really does have that about him. He can use his legs. He had 21 first downs with his legs. Really quick release, clean mechanics, nice ball placement. I think the way that he processes and he goes through his progressions, real sort of like NFL caliber sort of quarterback doing that. And he has the arm as well when it comes to the sort of the talent. He has that ability to do it. He had 30 drops from his pass catchers this year, so there is a little bit. It's not completely. I'm not saying that he's completely not to blame for some of it, but there was some really. Yeah, it wasn't great at Alabama, so that was a problem. He did struggle with accuracy in the second half of the season. I think that was fair to say, and that was obvious. Again, another one with a high follow through. I just felt like he wasn't throwing it right. His deep ball does need to improve. That's something that I think needs to happen if he's going to be able to do anything in the NFL. And I felt like he struggled under pressure a little bit. It's sort of like once it all kind of caved in on him, he did sort of struggle with. But again, I think with more plays, with more time, I think that will help. I have him as a round 2 talent. I don't have him as a round 1 talent. He reminds me of Mac Jones. He reminds me of Brock Purdy a little bit, which, to be honest, a lot of us were saying similar kind of things. I don't think he's a starter straight away, but I think that if he goes in, again, someone at a decent situation can sort him out a little bit, give him more reps, give him more practice. I think he has the potential to maybe be able to become a starter in the NFL in time.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of when I've got him at number 3, I think a lot of people think, "Oh, you don't like Ty Simpson. Like, why do you hate Ty Simpson?" I'm like, I've just said to you, I think he's round 2, and I do think he's good. I think he's a very intelligent quarterback. I think he's very quick and plays in rhythm very nicely. So when I look at him, I feel like all of the mental tools are his strengths, and all of the physical tools are not. And I find that's with me where I'm struggling with him, that I need the physical tools to match the mental tools for him to be a franchise quarterback. I think he's, he was saying Mac Jones, obviously same school. I think he has the ability to be good. I don't think he has the ability to be great. And I just think that's where he falls for me. I think he should have returned and got more starts. I think that would have helped him massively. We've seen Dante Moore go back, who's a better prospect because he needs more starts. And I think he should have left this legacy thing behind him and gone back. I think there's something else in there that he knows if he goes back and does another year, that his stock might not be as high as what it currently is. And I think that's why he's gone into the draft this year. And I think he'll be good, not great. And that's where I'm at, and why I've got the next person above him slightly higher.
I also think there might have been some sort of word that has been sent to him that if he goes into the NFL draft this year, that he will be a first round quarterback. I think there is a chance that someone will come up at the end and pick him up for the 5th year option. So I think that's probably what's happened.
Well, we now get to see who I've got in at number 2. There's someone that's not been mentioned. It's Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, 24 years old, 6'1", 202 pounds. Again, another guy that had injuries last year. This is supposed to be the year to showcase him being a first-round talent. 1,927 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 64.5% completion percentage. Not sacks in college count as rushing yards, so minus 57 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. This, again, it's another guy. I think you need to watch the 2024 tape to get the real picture on what this guy can do. That, he's an absolute gunslinger. He has the ability to make big plays. You've got to remember, in 2025, The O-line was bad. There was no run game whatsoever. There was poor coaching, poor play calling. They put a lot of it on him. He played through injuries from sort of week 1, 2, all the way through while he played. He was beat up and injured while he was playing. And I think he got the chance to showcase at the back end of the year again what he could do with decent players when he played in the Senior Bowl, where he was the best player in practice, the MVP of the game. And that's what you can see from him. And I think I'm glad he got to do that, because people got to see what I saw the years prior. Last year, when we were talking about the New York Giants, I said, do not take a quarterback with your first pick. Wait and take someone at the top of the second, and take Dart or Nussmeier. They were the two that I really, really liked. We took Dart. Look where Dart is now. Nussmeier had a similar grade on him as Dart. So I'm still going to be high on him through this process. I feel like he has the ability to be great, although he's not there yet. So this is why I've got him higher. What's your take on Garrett Nussmeier?
Yeah, I kind of have him and Simpson as like a 2A and a 2B when it comes to this. I think they're kind of rated about the same. Nussmeier, I really like him. I think he's got really good arm talent, really good in the pocket. I think he resets the pocket really well. And he's got a nice touch between, he finds the space very well. He seems to be able to dissect quite well defenses because of that. I think he's got a really good high IQ, and he processes really, really well. And he's a tough guy, actually. He hangs in there, he hangs in the pocket. He doesn't sort of worry about it, the pressure coming in on him. And I think that he's okay on the move. I don't think he's necessarily amazing. I think he has that in his arsenal to be able to do that, but I don't think it's necessarily his main game. So I think he's got lots of really good sort of like you say, he's kind of a bit gunslingery type, pocket presence. I think he does that really well, and so that's the good things about him. Being a gunslinger, he's a little bit small for that. That is the kind of concern. So you do have some durability issues. I feel like sometimes he kind of hunts for the big play and can be a little bit over aggressive, but that's kind of the gunslinger mentality sort of thing that he has. So I think he's just that's what you're dealing with. That's what he's like. So I think if you draft him, you kind of need, what you're getting with him sort of thing. I think he's got a lot of good things about him. I think that I'm not going to say that it can't work in today's NFL, because I do think you can be a bit of a gunslinger and do it. I feel like Jordan Love is kind of a bit of a gunslinger, and you can kind of do quite well with that. But obviously not really having much of a run game, it does kind of feel like you kind of need a bit of both is sort of how it feels sometimes. But then, you look at the Seahawks and Sam Darnold, and you sort of think, well, maybe not. So I think he's a good quarterback. I think he'll do well in the NFL, and I think he's definitely worth taking. I've got him as a round 2 talent. I think that you take him round 2. If you want the extra 5th-year option, I get why you might trade up and take him. But for me, he's a round 2 guy, and I think in the right situation again, he's got a really good chance of being able to do something.
Yeah, comes from a football family. His dad's the offensive coordinator at the Saints. So I think there was a lot of hype that the Saints might take him, but I feel like they're going to stick with Tyler Shuck now. So I think that might be out, obviously, from LSU as well. I think they all pay into it quite well that he's from a football family. I think that does elevate you a little bit more. And as you said, quick to process, goes through his reads, touch, velocity. I feel like throwing on the move, he's very accurate at throwing on the move. I know we talked about him, how he was on the move in general, but I think that's something that we didn't speak about as well. So a lot to like about this guy. And again, I think once we get into combine and things like that, and we see more of his attributes shining through again through that, I think he'll start rising up boards again. I think as I said, I feel like The Senior Bowl has already propelled him a little bit. So I think there'll be a lot of hype with this guy come the draft process. So I'm sticking with my guns on his ability. And we will move on to the final one. And it's no surprise who is at number one. And that is Fernando Mendoza of the Indiana Hoosiers, 22 years old, 6'5", 225 pounds. Last year threw for 3,535 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 72% completion percentage, 276 yards, and 7 touchdowns on the ground. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. He was the Maxwell Award winner. I think he won another award as well. Only spent the previous year with Indiana properly as the starter. So I've got lots of good things to say about him. What have you got to say about him?
Yeah, there is a lot of good things to say about him. I mean, I think firstly, his size and frame is exactly what you want from a quarterback. I mean, at 6'5", you've got no height issues here. You know, he's more than capable, and he sees the field really, really well. I think he diagnoses defenses very well. He's great against zone. He can find them gaps and get the ball in there. Really good placement for that. And then also he has a really strong arm, and he's got not only the strength, but he's got the talent as well there for like deep balls and tight windows. And he can kind of like hit every pass that you really need him to do. He's very tough in the pocket. He's happy to stand in there, and it doesn't bother him when the pressure gets onto him. He only had 6 interceptions out 379 attempts, which is, you know, crazy good really for a college quarterback. And, you know, he is not a runner really, but he can run if need be. He does have that in him. Yeah. But he's not a dual threat quarterback really. That's not his game, but he does have that ability. His pass to the back shoulder is pretty ridiculous. And, you know, I'm not going to say, because being a Green Bay fan and watching Rodgers all these years do it to like Devontae Adams, it's not far off than what he was doing. It was literally every single one. Back shoulder pass was great. So he's got lots and lots of things going for him. He deserves to be the Heisman Trophy winner. He deserves to be the number one quarterback in this class. He deserves to be the first overall pick in this class. The only thing that I would say is I feel like his footwork can improve. That is something that I feel he's not quite there, especially when he's out of the pocket. That's something that he can improve, but it's not really his game, to be honest. A comp for him, at first I kind of went Jared Goff.
Yeah, and what a more athletic Jared Goff.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was first looking, but eventually I kind of went Matt Ryan, and I kind of felt like that sort of ability, he's got that, and look, I don't know how it's going to work out for him, because it looks like he's going to end up at the Raiders, but I think he's got, if they can get if they can get a solid O-line in front of him and some weapons, I think he's got a decent chance to really do something special in the NFL.
Yeah, I think big knock on him when he was at Cal before he transferred to Indiana was his decision making. That really improved this year at Indiana. As you said, good rhythm, velocity, steps up into the pocket, which was a big knock on college guys. When they move backwards, you hate that when they move back. He steps up into the pocket well. Yeah. Something good to really take from it. And I think his toughness is unbelievable. If you watch the Ohio State game, in the first couple of minutes of the game, he got absolutely crunched and completely wiped out. People were like, he's not getting back up from that. He got up, went over to the sideline, was out for like one play, came back in and was playing again. And there was a lot of worry that he was done for the game. So toughness is there. Leadership is there as well. Always keeps his eyes downfield. And the big thing, Adam, you've mentioned it already, and you did not mention it with him. He's got the clutch factor. He's got it. So it's nitpicking really at things you don't like about him, because he has improved in those areas that we didn't see at Cal. So deserves his trophy and to be the first round pick. No one's not having him at number 1 on their list, are they? As an obvious one. Well, that's all the quarterbacks. I think that do you want an honorable mention for one of your guys before we sign off? Because there was someone I missed out on this list that you had in your top 10.
Yeah, I had Sawyer Robertson in there. I think that I would have him towards the back end of it. I think that he has he's kind of got the size and he's got the frame for it. He is kind of quite a sort of like a natural pocket passer from Baylor. Obviously, look, he's got some issues as well, and I wouldn't have him like anywhere near the top guys at all. And I think he's someone where you're looking at like a day 3 guy. But yeah, I think there's actually a couple of guys where I think they might potentially get in as a day 3, round 7 type dart throw. But yeah, I feel overall that this class is just, it's not great.
It's full of backups and gambles. I think that's what we can say. There's a couple of guys in there that are gambles that could turn out good, and a lot of guys that are just going to be solid backups. It
really is kind of a roll on 2027 when it comes to quarterbacks, I'm afraid. And
fingers crossed. It's supposed to have 5 first round starters in there. So let's hope that it stays that way. And we see some other names. Mendoza wasn't on anyone's list prior to this year. So let's hope we get some more guys like that as well creep up on there. And we're saying there's 6 or 7 guys that people want to take a punt at. But we'll be back very soon with the running backs and then the wide receivers. And then, we'll go for all the positions. So keep it with the franchise tag during this draft process. We'll be back with our top 10s and see you again very, very